Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Crimes, Killers, Cults,
And beer.
and damn, you're loud. But that could be my volume too. Hold on. Okay. Anyway, true crime from the point of view of two crazy Florida men.
Yeah.
And
Crazy.
I'm Bill,
And I'm Paul.
and we got a doozy for you. But before we get started, I I want to let everybody know that I'm drinking vodka and water, minus the vodka, in my navy blue sippy cup.
Yeah. Navy blue. That's dolphins blue, man.
No, this is it's dark blue. Oh crap!
Yeah. That matches the shirt.
It's just my shitty camera. It's actually dark blue.
Ah. Right.
But so it doesn't have the same ring as powder blue sippy cup. Oh well, it is what it is. So yeah, this is part one of a 3-part episode series, a series that we swore we would never do again. We would never revisit. We've been teasing this for a couple months now, but we're going to go ahead and do it. This is the BTK redo.
The redo. Ooh,
And this one is going to be a hell of a lot better than the first two. I mean, we were not ready to cover a case this big that early on, but we are now. And this is how it should have been back then. So I mean, I haven't even gone back and listened to the original 2 episodes. Number 1 because they're horrible, and number 2 because I didn't want I wanted to completely detach from that and start over again.
And usually the second ones are always the best.
So, yeah, especially when there's like a year and a half in between the first attempt and the second one.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Actually, it's probably closer to about a year and a half.
Yeah. Huh.
So
Well, we had to let it ferment.
Oh, it
Turn into good wine.
It was fermented the moment I published it. God, those episodes are horrible. I'm embarrassed by them, but I'm going to leave them up. I'm going to. But
there you go.
We tell people don't listen to those episodes, but
And they will.
I even put in the description, don't listen to these. But the numbers on them keep climbing. People are listening to them. But once these get released, I'm going to be like, don't listen to these. Go listen to episodes 93, 94, and 95.
Yeah. I mean,
better.
the film industry never gets rid of the original movies when they make a remake or a reboot of film. So it's like
That's true.
This is a reboot. It's like, hey, this is the
Yeah, that's it. Instead of a redo, I'm going to call it a reboot.
There you go.
There we go. The BTK reboot. Part 1. Ready?
Part 1. I'm ready.
Let's go. Dennis Rader was born March 9th, 1945 in Pittsburgh, plain old Kansas, to Dorothea May and William Elvin Rader. He was the oldest out of their 4 sons. He would later claim that his parents ignored him and his siblings. His father was a Marine, and when he retired, the family moved to plain old Kansas, where he found work at an oil company. He killed at least 10 people in Wichita, and he's suspected in 2 more. And there are lots of other cold cases that were from around that time where he's being looked into as a point of interest. And we'll get into a couple of them at the end of part 3. So he gave himself the name BTK along with a list of other names. Yeah, he's a lot of originality with this dude. And I say that sarcastically. He would stalk and study his prospective victims for weeks before striking, and he would call them projects. And when the time was right, he would cut the phone lines. That was his trademark. And he would break in and wait for the victims to come home, and he would attack.
Mm.
Now, Dennis was a sexually motivated killer, and although he never physically raped anybody, he would let them think that he was going to, and in some cases, he would masturbate on them, on the victims.
Creepy.
Very. He also liked to dress up in ladies' lingerie and take photos of himself in bondage. There's no word on whether or not if he was a lumberjack. You got that?
Yeah.
But he said that this was a sexual fantasy where he would pretend to be his victims. He could have just hung himself and been a victim. Yeah, done the world a favor.
Yeah. Get it over with, man.
He liked to emulate other serial killers and believed himself to be in a club with such heavy hitters as Ted Bundy and others. He was particularly influenced by Harvey Glatman, who liked to take pictures of his victims, tied up in, like bondage positions and stuff like that. The pictures that would turn up in the detective magazines that he loved to read.
Ooh.
And that's how he found out about Harvey Glatman at an early age.
Huh.
And we covered Harley early on, actually right after we did BTK the first time. That episode isn't bad. It's kind of bland because, it's like we weren't even 10 episodes in at that point. But it's kind of bland, but it's not a bad episode. Harvey Glatman.
Yeah.
So, he was so cocky and arrogant. He believed he was untouchable, and he thought that he had some sort of kinship with the police. His crime spree lasted from January 16th, 1974 to January 19th, 1991. And he thought that there was something symbolic about his activities, so I'm sure that those dates meant something to him, being just 17 years and 4 days from start to finish. But in 2005, he came out of haunting. He came out of haunting.
Mm.
There we go. He came out of hiding and began taunting the police. This capture was one of the more funnier and more satisfying captures of a serial killer. He thought he was super intelligent when literally he was just a stupid, bumbling ogre idiot.
Idiot.
A dumbass. And although he was very successful at hiding his other life from his family and everybody around him for a very long time, he was well liked. He was even a Cub Scout leader. He was even the president of his church. And he would have died a free man if he had just kept his mouth shut and not injected him back into the BTK story.
Mm.
He couldn't help himself.
Yeah. Yeah, when your ego gets in the way, you start telling people stuff that's giving too many secrets away.
Yeah.
But that's what pride does.
Pride goeth before a fall.
Yeah.
I think I read that somewhere.
Yep.
I'm trying to get a little more comfortable here. My mouse is like way over here. So okay, that's better. So Dennis was said to be a normal kid, normal family, good in school, nothing out of the ordinary on the surface. He liked to play cowboys and Indians. He loved to read comics books, which later turned into detective crime magazines. So put a knife in that. And from a very early age, Dennis had sexual fantasies about torturing helpless women. He also tortured and killed animals. He also liked to peep on the female neighbors. He would break into houses and steal trinkets as well as women's panties. He loved the panties. I bet he sniffed them.
Yeah, that guy had some weird kinks. Weird kinks.
I'm not kink shaming. I mean, if you
No,
want to, if panties are your thing, more power to you.
Yeah, like feet.
Just don't steal them. And don't steal feet either, Jerry Brudos. But yeah, I mean, you can go online and you can pay for used panties. It'll
Yeah,
be
or go to Walmart.
Ew. But he would never get caught in any. He would never get caught in any of this until he literally got himself busted. He got along with his parents, although, according to Dennis, his mother would become the scapegoat, leading to his kinks. And she caught him masturbating one time at 10 years old, and she told him that the devil would come get him if he did that.
Mm,
Now, they were kind of conservative Christian fundamentalists, you know, so that might have happened. And with that, I mean, they weren't part of a fundy cult or anything like that, but
yeah.
they were. I can't. Well, he was a Lutheran as an adult, so I can only imagine he was probably raised Lutheran. And they're kind of strict, especially in the through the Bible Belt area.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So his grandfather had an old barn that he would fantasize about turning into an S&M dungeon. So Dennis graduated from Wichita Heights High School and then went to plain old Kansas Wesleyan University, although he dropped out after 1 year.
Couldn't dig it.
And he then served in the Air Force from 1966 to 1970, where he achieved the rank of staff sergeant. He was deployed all over. He was stationed all over the world. He saw lots of different places: Okinawa, Greece, Japan. Well, Okinawa.
Yeah.
While he was serving, he started attempting to explore bondage with sex workers, and he probably never actually had sex with one. It's more likely that he just wanted to tie them up, and that probably creeped them out, because no sex worker is going to let somebody that they don't know tie them up
No.
unless there's a big armed bodyguard in the room with them.
Yeah, yeah. It's hmm.
So once he got out of the Air Force, he moved to Park City, a Wichita suburb. There he got a job at a grocery store as a meat cutter, and that would normally be kind of a red flag on just about any other serial killer, but not BTK. BTK never butchered anybody.
That's a good thing.
He stabbed somebody, but he never butchered anybody.
Yeah.
There's one serial killer that I think we've covered, and that worked as a meat cutter and actually used that expertise on victims, and I can't remember which one that was. I'm pretty sure it's somebody that we covered, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
But his mom had got him that job because she was the bookkeeper there.
All in the family.
Yeah. May of 1971, Dennis married Paula Dietz, and they had 2 kids, Carrie and Brian. Well, Brian and Carrie. Brian was first. Carrie, later on in adulthood, wrote a book called A Serial Killer's Daughter. I haven't read that. It is on my list of things to read, but right now I'm having to record 2 or 3 episodes a week right now, getting ready for your deployment. So we'll have content to release while you're gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for your service, by the way, sir.
Thank you.
And he then got he then got an associate's degree in electronics engineering from Butler Community College in 1973. He then went to Wichita State University, majored in administration of justice, and got a Bachelor of Science degree. He then got a job at the Coleman Company, the camping supply chain. He then worked at a Cessna plant for a few years, and he was working at that plant where he committed his first murders. He then moved on to ADT Security Services as a security system installer, giving him complete access to potential victims and knowledge of their security systems.
Ooh, yeah, that's
That is one of the scariest things I've ever heard about serial killers.
yeah.
I mean, it would be like, I don't know, like John Wayne Gacy opening a private boys camp.
Yeah. Yeah, that's way too much access. That's,
Yeah.
and since he didn't have a record, I'm sure, companies at that time were doing background checks, and so nothing would ever appear.
Yeah, he never had a record. He was never arrested until the day he went down permanently,
Yeah,
which is crazy because of all the shit that he did, all the burglaries and all the stuff. He didn't just murder. I mean, he was a petty thief as well. So I mean, there's plenty of chances for him to get busted. He never
yeah,
did. He was very careful. Or nah, I'm not going to say he was very careful. I'm going to say he was very lucky.
luck.
Because when we start getting into his crimes, you're going to see just how much of a bumbling fool this guy actually was.
Yeah, yeah,
Just sue me, Dennis, please sue me.
yeah.
Sue me for defamation. Okay, he was and then when the BTK killings became public knowledge, ADT obviously got very busy with new clients. Primary source for this is the book Confessions of a Serial Killer: The Untold Story of Dennis Rader, The BTK Killer by Catherine Ramsland. Very, very good book. She actually did correspondence with BTK for months,
Yeah.
maybe even years, putting this book together. So a lot of what we're saying is coming straight from BTK's mouth.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a very good book. And I had the book when we did it the first time,
Yeah.
but I wasn't as good as at researching as I am now. Right here.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Huh.
So, let's see. There's a documentary called Very Scary People. It's available on Discovery Plus. It's season 2, episodes 3 and 4. Use that little bit and everything just to kind of get me started. Little bit of wiki. I use Cake TV, and there's going to be more as I go to because I'm not finished writing this episode yet,
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah,
this series yet. So there's going to be more.
yeah.
Um,
Always developments that come
yeah.
in as you're building.
And then there's also my memory from the first time when we covered this chucklehead.
Yeah.
And so now we're going to start getting into the crimes. So buckle up. Now, Dennis was 29 years old when he committed his first murders, although he had been stalking women for years. It took him a while to actually work up enough nerve to actually go through with it. The Oteros were originally from Puerto Rico. They had recently moved to Wichita after 38-year-old Joseph Otero had gotten out of the Air Force. They when they got out of the Air Force, they kind of bounced around a little bit. They were living in Camden, New Jersey, where they briefly ran a candy store, but they left Camden for Puerto Rico after the infamous Camden riots. But then they moved to Wichita, Plano, Kansas after Joseph retired from the Air Force as a master sergeant.
Huh.
Joseph was also an accomplished boxer, and like most was like I think 4 out of the 5 kids were students of the martial arts.
Whoa.
This is a family of fighters.
Yeah.
There, Joseph found work at Cook Airfield, and that was what he did in the Air Force. And there were lots of airplane factories in Wichita. Wichita at one point was a major hub for airlines. In fact, there was one plant there that actually sent like over 1,000 B-17s into World War II.
Whoa.
just out just
Yeah,
just just to go into World War II. So that yeah, Wichita had a very good economy back then,
I bet. Yeah,
especially post World War II.
yeah, yeah.
Shit.
Post and yeah, yeah. Wonder what it's like now. Most of
Now
them all
it's
already left.
well, I've been to Wichita. I mean, there's still a lot of factories there, but it's not it's a shell of what it used to be.
Mm.
I mean, I wouldn't say that Wichita is necessarily a bad place to live, but I will say that it's a boring place to live. Kansas in general, hence the term plain old Kansas.
Yeah,
I'm sure you've been wondering about that.
plain old. Is that
Plain
how
old
they?
Kansas?
Is that why they named it just plain old Kansas?
No, I named it plain old Kansas.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, because,
Yeah,
it actually originated in a Patreon episode.
yeah,
Um, it was an episode that took place in between Arkansas and Kansas, and it was Thomas and Sandy Bird.
yeah.
That episode wasn't long enough to be, on our feed or whatever. Plus, Todd and I got totally blitzed while we were doing it. But, um, but trying to differentiate between, Arkansas and Kansas, we're like, "Okay, finally, there's our Kansas and there's plain old Kansas." So
Ah,
that's how plain old Kansas came to be. I don't think I've ever explained that, like, outside of, like, other thing I just started saying plain old Kansas after we did that, and, I don't think I
yeah.
ever explained it. People are like, "Well, where did that go?" Well, now you know.
I can't find it on the map. Where is it on the map? I wanna go there. Uh,
So, um, his wife, Julie, had found work at the Coleman plant, and which is the same one that Dennis had previously worked at. They had 5 yids. They had 5 kids from, 15 years old to 9 years old. Charlie was 15, Danny was 14, Carmen was 13, and Josie was 11, and Joe Jr. was 9.
mm,
They were busy.
yes, they were.
Couldn't imagine 5 kids, but oh well.
Yeah. For not being a farmer, tell you, especially
Yeah,
in
right?
Kansas, man, you gotta have a lot of kids in Kansas back then,
Yeah.
especially if you had a farm.
The Oteros they were a very happy, functioning family. I like, the if reality, if reality shows existed back in the 70s, they could have filmed the Oteros and it would have been like the Brady Bunch, minus the combined family.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go there. The Otero bunch.
Yeah,
Nah, but they're really cool, and we're going to talk a little bit about Charlie, the elder son, later on, probably in part 3.
part 3.
Um, they lived in a nice house at 803 Edgemore Avenue in Wichita. And they had only moved in 10 months prior, and this was a very peaceful neighborhood, very little crime. In fact, Wichita itself didn't really have a high crime rate at all. It's like if there was a murder, it was like a family member or an acquaintance or something like that, and the case was like usually wrapped up within 24 hours.
Mm.
Just normal stuff like that. Well, not normal, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
But Dennis had been stalking Julie for weeks, and he knew her schedule in and out, like when she dropped her kids off at school, when she went to work, everything. He also knew Joseph's schedule. He knew that he left for work at 8 o'clock in
Mm.
the morning. He did not, however, know that they had 5 kids. um, but on January 15th, the Otero's routine was different than normal. Charlie had asked Joseph to take him to school early that day, and he did. And and Danny and Carmen went along with them early as well. Now Joseph dropped them off at school and then came back home and helped Julie, get Josie and Joseph Jr. ready for school. Now normally Joseph would have already been at work and Julie would have taken all 5 kids to school, but Joseph was out of work with an injury. He had cracked ribs from a car accident.
Mm.
Dennis did not know this. So when he saw, you know, Dennis was in the bushes in the backyard waiting and watching, and he had seen Joseph leave, and he figured he had all the kids with him. He
Yeah.
didn't see Joseph come back. So he wanted to hang somebody, and he thought that Latino women were sexy, and they are, but I don't wanna kill them.
Right.
Dennis liked to name his projects, and Julie Otero he named Little Mex. Racist much?
Hmm.
That seems a little
Yeah.
racist to me.
Yeah.
She wasn't Mexican, she was Puerto Rican.
Right?
There's
Yeah. It
I mean, there's
exactly. He did not do much, especially for someone who went to college.
Yeah, right?
Well, for a year.
Well, he well, he was in the Air Force, that's pretty diverse.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you probably get a lot of knowledge in that, but yeah, I don't know. Judge a book by its cover all the time.
Um,
Yeah.
so while he was in the backyard, Dennis saw dog paw prints in the snow, and he later said that normally he would have called it off because of the dog, but he decided to go through it with it anyway. According to Dennis, he hadn't, quote, yard cased the house.
Mm, yard case.
He likes to make up words, and we're gonna see that.
Yeah.
He he makes up words worse than I do. When I make up a word, I do it accidentally. He does it on purpose. He had a kill kit with him that contained hemp rope, duct tape, a knife, and a gun. And he crept up to the back of the door, the back door. He cut the phone lines. That's his trademark. And he heard the voices inside, but he had already opened the door and they had seen him. There
Ooh.
was no turning back now. So he pulled a gun, and he was shocked to see that Josie, um, Julie, and Joe Jr. were still in the house.
Mm,
Um, Joe Sr. was upstairs at that point, and well, he wasn't upstairs. It wasn't a two-story house, but he was in the back of the house at the time. But he shortly came in, hearing the commotion when Dennis walked in.
yeah.
He's got a gun. He tells him a line that he would use several more times. He said he just wanted their car and money because he was an escaped convict. He just wanted to tie them up so that he could make a clean getaway. And if they cooperated, he would leave them alone.
Mm,
Um, Joseph initially thought that this was a joke set up by his brother-in-law, especially seeing that Dennis Rader's Air Force jacket. But Dennis pointed his gun and said, it's got hollow points, bullets, and a hair trigger. And at that point, Joseph knew it wasn't a joke. So then Dennis started talking about his time in the Air Force, to ease tension. He then said that he needed money, food, and their car. He said he was on the run from police because he was AWOL from the Air Force. He tried to find some common ground with Joseph because, he knew that Joseph was in the Air Force
yeah.
or had been in the Air Force or whatever. That's why he wore the Air Force jacket.
Mm,
My question would be like, okay, your military is it common for you know military people to victimize other military people that they don't know or don't have anything against?
definitely not common. I
Yeah,
mean, it's a brotherhood. The longer you're
exactly.
in, the more of a brotherhood it is. It becomes a fraternity.
Yeah, but Dennis was only there for 4 years.
Mhm.
Joseph did a full career out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And also depend on if you're one of those, dishonorably discharged or disavowed and stuff, and you've got bitterness. So
Yeah, true.
that can
So Joseph said they had very little money and the car was low on gas. And regardless, Dennis grabbed the car keys and Joseph handed him his wallet. And Joseph said, "You can take the typewriter and sell it for gas money." The Oteros was still as calm as you could expect at this point. But still, this plan had completely backfired, and while Dennis seemed in control, he was panicking. The dog was barking, and he told Joseph to put it outside, which Joseph did.
Yeah.
At this point, Dennis wanted to call it off, but since he wasn't wearing a mask, they could identify him. And he had a mask in his kill kit, but he forgot to put it on.
Yeah, that was a very yeah, that was a heck of a screw up. It's like, come on, man.
He never wore a mask in any of his crimes. He never wore a mask.
Yeah. Too many witnesses at that time.
I do believe that he did have the mask in the bag.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why would he say something that makes him look like a fucking moron?
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot to put it on, but I forgot to put one in there is better than I forgot to put one on. I had it, but
Yeah.
forgot to put it on.
Yeah, if you have it and you forgot to put it on, come on. Put it on before you even get to the house.
Or at least when you're in the backyard in the bushes.
Yeah.
Hopefully, bends over and, like on his knee and puts his knee right into a mound of dog shit.
True. Or at least have it, if it's one of those, like, roll up when you can roll it up and you just wear it as a beanie until you get to that perfect point where you're like, "Oh, crap."
Dude,
Way down.
you sound like you're speaking from experience.
No. I watch a lot of CIA movies.
Plus, we live in Florida. Ain't nobody wearing full face.
I know. Yeah,
caps.
it don't get cold enough out down here, man. Only on an occasion.
At first, he tied them all up using first aid tape, and they complained about it cutting the circulation, so he redid it with hemp rope and then later duct tape. They were cooperating because he had told them that if they just did what he said and let him tie him up, then he would leave them in peace. Never, ever, 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 ever let somebody tie you up.
Oh, no.
Unless it's agreed upon, unless it's both parties consent, never, ever let's. If somebody says, "Let me tie you up and everything will be fine," it's not going to be fine. At that point, that means pounce.
Exactly. Because you never know what is going to happen between the time that they're finished tying you up and then on.
Yeah, they tie you up. Let's say they don't stab you to death or shoot you. What if they light your house on fire when they
Exactly. Yeah.
Never
Knock
let
you
somebody
out.
tie
Someone
you up.
behind you, boom, knock you out, boom, and then you're like, "Oh, crap."
Yeah, never let somebody tie you up. But Dennis was becoming sexually excited at this point. He was getting a BT boner. The bondage part was turning on, it was rousing the beast.
Yeah.
The Oteros were still complaining about being tied up, and Joseph said that he was uncomfortable because of his cracked ribs. So he loosened their ropes a little bit, and he even put a pillow down to make Joseph more uncomfortable, and he put a jacket on him so he wasn't sleeping directly on, wasn't lying directly on the floor.
Hmm.
Like, what a nice guy.
Yeah. He was considerate.
Yeah, very.
Hmm.
He also gagged all the Oteros at this point with socks in their mouths and with pillowcases. And he promised to call the police and let them know that they needed help once he was free and clear of their area.
Hmm.
No, he didn't. No, he wasn't going to do that.
No.
He then tied Joseph to a bedpost in the bedroom, then tied Julie to the bed, then Josie and another one. Or he then tied, yeah, let me start that over again. He then tied Joseph to a bedpost in the bedroom. He tied Julie to the bed, and then he put Josie into another room, and he put Joseph Jr. in the bathroom.
Oh.
He began strangling Joseph with a rope around his neck, and he was shocked at how difficult it was to strangle somebody. He said, "It's like I had strangled cats before. This wasn't anything like strangling a cat."
Duh.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah. Yeah.
Joseph quit moving and he moved on to Julie. He strangled her until she stopped moving. He then moved on to Joseph Jr. and strangled him until he stopped moving. Then on to Josie. Josie asked what was going on, and Dennis said that he put her parents to sleep and that she was next. He then strangled her until she quit moving.
Mm.
But none of them were dead.
Yeah. Just enough to
just,
let him
just,
pass out, and
yeah,
then slowly come back.
yeah. But Joseph Jr. was awake and crying. Joseph Sr. was awake now too. He went to Joseph Jr. with a plastic bag and put it over his head. By that time, Julie was once again awake and she was struggling to get loose of her bonds. And he put a bag over Joseph's head and then went back to Julie. She was screaming loudly at this point. He then put a bag over Julie's head and strangled her once again. Just before he started, Julie said, "May God have mercy on your soul." And Dennis strangled her to death and then went back to Joseph. Now, by this time, Joseph had bitten a hole in the plastic bag, and so Dennis put a T-shirt over his head as well as another plastic bag. He then secured it tightly around his neck with a belt. And then
Mm.
Joseph struggled until the very end. So he went back to Joseph Jr. and brought him and a chair into a bedroom. And he tied Joseph to the chair. He brought Josie in and he made her watch as he strangled Joseph Jr.
Wow.
He then choked Josie out again. So the house was quiet. And then this was where his dark, sadistic self came out. This is where it came out.
Mm.
This is where it came out. No, this
No.
no. It came out when he woke up that morning.
Oh yeah.
He decided he wanted to hang Josie, so he made a noose from his hemp rope and he searched the house and he found the basement and he tied a rope to a pipe that was going across the ceiling. He then went and got Josie and brought her into the basement. She wasn't crying or fighting with him. She was awake at this point. He got her downstairs. He removed her pants. Then he cut her bra off, and he actually asked her if her parents had a camera because he wanted to take pictures of her.
Mm.
You sick fuck.
Well, that's something he didn't add to his gig. His bug out bag was a camera.
Not yet.
Yeah.
He told her that soon she'd go to sleep, and when she woke up, she'd be in heaven with her parents and her brother.
Mm.
And he says this a lot. He says, Josie was upset. He says that about a lot of his. She was upset. Well, what do you really like? Oh
Yeah.
man, I'm really bummed that you just want to kill me. I mean, upset is when I hit my pinky toe on a chair.
Yeah.
That's upset.
That is upset. Bothered.
or if I step on something that my daughter left on the floor with a when I'm not wearing shoes.
Yeah.
That's upset.
That's yeah. Hmm.
If you're about to hang me, I'm gonna be a little more than upset.
Oh, see, yeah. More than upset. I'll be irate.
Yeah.
I.
Hey. So then he put the noose around her neck and then pulled the rope to lift her off the floor. And then he masturbated on her body and left her hanging there.
Yeah, that's disturbed.
Yeah. I would be really upset.
Yeah.
After this, Dennis cleaned up the house and he got a glass of water, another secret trademark. He would get a glass of water at every victim's home. In the movie Terrifier 2, there was this scene actually got recreated. Art the clown was in the house and he poured himself a glass of water and he drank it. And he was in the house of a victim. And if you go on our social media pages, you'll see a picture that I made of that scene with Art drinking a glass of water, and I photoshopped Dennis Rader into it, he's saying, "Hey, asshole, that's my trademark. Everybody knows that."
I saw that. I saw that today.
I made that last night. So I'm gonna do another one too, because there's another, you know, thing that he did that that Hollywood did. If I can find that scene and make it relevant, make it so that it's obvious that's what we're getting at, then
Yeah.
I'll do that too, for that one as well. But we'll get to that one in part two.
Yeah.
Um, so he took the Otero's radio and Joseph watch, and he kept the watch for years until one day he just threw it into a creek. He also turned up the heat in the house to throw off the time of death and speed up decomp.
I don't think that's not gonna make too much of a difference.
No, a family of four gone. People are going to notice that real quick.
Yeah.
There's not going to be any decomposition. That body that family was going to be, and he doesn't even know about the other three kids. But even still, by the middle of the next day, the family would, they'd be over at the house and find the scene.
Yeah.
If the other three kids, didn't exist. But so then he stole the Otero's car and he drove it to a mall parking lot where he had parked his car, and he abandoned the Otero's car there. But then he realized that he had left his knife back at the Otero's house, and he had to go back and get it.
No.
He drove back to their house in his own car, which he parked in the garage. He found the knife near where he had cut the phone line. He had cut the phone line, then dropped the knife. And then he went home. All of these details are in his confession and in the books. And it's actually even more detailed than what I read here. And he then started a journal of what he had done, and that was when he came up with the BTK moniker.
Mm.
All serial killers need to have a good moniker, right? And Dennis deserved one too. So this was his identity.
You gotta have a name, man. You gotta give
Yeah,
yourself a nickname.
you can't give yourself your own name.
Yeah.
You can't. Serial killer, CB handles. You have to biker names. You can't just say, "Hey, I'm Demon Killer." No, you've got to be given in all of these things. You have to be given the name.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's invalid.
You hear noises. Right. Yeah. Hear noises in the background. It's not in the studio. It's in the house. And I live alone.
Uh-oh. Well, if I
Yep.
see murdered, I'll call the police.
There you go. Good idea.
Yeah, if somebody walks in, be like, I'm live here. I'm pretty sure you got your piece under your desk right there.
Yeah. Got plenty of them. Yeah. Stun guns, all kinds of, even book knives.
He later admitted that he fantasized about having all four of the Oteros as slaves in the afterlife, fulfilling all of his sexual fantasies. Joseph would be the bodyguard, Julie would serve and bathe him, and he would use the children as sex toys. It doesn't work that way.
No.
You don't kill somebody and then get to harvest their soul to be a slave. It doesn't work that way, Dennis. At least I hope it doesn't.
I don't know what church he went to, but I don't know. It just
Yeah. Is that what the Lutherans teach? I'm kidding, Lutherans. I'm kidding, Lutherans. He later said that he used to fantasize about Annette Funicello from the Mickey Mouse Club. His whole fascination with Josie Otero was because she reminded him of a young Annette Funicello from the Mickey Mouse Club.
Yeah, the Mickey Mouse Club. All right. Huh.
All of his crimes originated because of his need to relieve the big G, as he called it, or orgasm. And he would later say that he was ruled by a dark force called Factor X. Yeah, he tried to learn from his first murders and realized he had to toughen up his hands if he was going to strangle people. So he bought like a little stress ball and everything to squeeze and build up his strength. So he's, you know, he's doing the, doing the thing. And it's like, oh, you're getting your hand, you're working out your hand there. You get a little bit of arthritis or something. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah. Got to go to the gym. Get ready.
Later that day, Charlie, the oldest Otero son, came home from school along with Carmen and Danny. And the front door was locked and the car was gone. Charlie went around the back of the house and the dog was still outside. That was odd, considering this pooch was an indoor dog and it was very cold outside with snow on the ground. He went into the house and saw Julie's purse on the floor and Joseph's wallet on the floor, all strewn out. There were like meals and stuff like halfway prepared and everything. Plus, it was hot as hell in the house. He yelled, "Is anybody home?" And Danny yelled back. He says, "Charlie, come quick. Mom and Dad are playing a really bad joke on us." Danny and Carmen had found Julie's body. Charlie told them to get out of the house, and he didn't want Josie and Joseph Jr. to see their parents like that, not realizing that they were dead too. They tried to call the police, but the phone line was dead, of course. Yeah, that was BTK's trademark.
Yep. No cell phones back then either.
Nope. Police were initially thinking that this one was a victim. It was a murder-suicide.
Yeah.
They didn't realize that at the time that Josie and Joseph Jr. were in the house too. And finally, they were found, and Charlie lost it upon hearing the news. Obviously, they all did, but Charlie, being the oldest, probably took it the worst.
Yeah,
and he did. He had a rough go of it, but like I said, we're going to talk about him at part 3. Josie was found by an officer searching the basement. He hadn't actually seen her. It was dark, and he had actually bumped into the body.
Oh.
And it moved. So he bumped into the body and it moves. He's whipping around. It's thinking that there's somebody behind him, like maybe the killer or something like that. Instead, he finds an 11-year-old girl, partially naked and hanging. Yeah, I'm sure there was some PTSD involved with that officer.
Oh, I bet. Jesus. Man.
Police were also thinking that Joseph's activities overseas could have come back to bite him. Maybe was this drug related? Yeah, because at the 70s, it's like, okay, a Puerto Rican guy, got to be involved with drugs, right?
Yeah.
Those theories were quickly dismissed. 75 officers were put on the case, and they were working with every jurisdiction in the Wichita area. Within a couple weeks, 800 people had been questioned, but nothing came up.
Wow.
Yeah, this story was obviously huge news in Wichita. And Dennis had kept all of the clippings from the newspaper, and he had them in a box in his garage, which was later moved to his parents' garage, then years later to an old treehouse in his backyard that he had built for his son. That was his hat hole. This is where he would stash everything: his news clippings, trophies, everything. All this went into the hidey hole. Right now we have our old Right now we have our old pal Dick Darwin sharing his thoughts on the handling of the Otero murder investigation. So I'm gonna roll it.
Roll it.
Hello, everybody. Dick Darwin here, Dallas detective. I hear you have a new co-host, so it's nice to formally meet you there, Paul. I've heard great things. Anyway, I believe that the Wichita Police Department dropped the ball back in 1974 after the tragic Otero murders. You see, all they would have had to have done would be to find a woman who looked like Julie and a girl who looked like Josie. Then they go to the press, KAKE-TV, and they do a press conference after the news of the murders went out. And then they put these two ladies up in interview, and they say that they survived the attack and that they could ID the killer. And then mention that they would be returning home because they had no place else to go, see? And then you have a taxi driver deliver these ladies back to the Otero's house and just wait. Because BTK would surely come back to finish the job. And when he broke in the second time, a SWAT team would be waiting. Bam! Got him. He's arrested faster than a Texas rattlesnake striking at a prairie dog. But they never asked for my help. And that's just another reason why I retired. Nobody wants to be unappreciated. Anyway, thanks again for having me on your show. Dick Darwin, Dallas Detective, signing off.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dick.
Thank you, Dick.
Such a unique perspective coming from that guy.
Yeah. Very unique.
Well, when Jessica from Texas True Crime was on covering Bernie Teed, Dick Darwin's even flirting a little bit with Jessica.
Yeah.
She called him she's like, oh, he's a smoothie.
Oh, man.
Hi, Jessica.
Oh, man.
So, for weeks after murdering the Oteros, Dennis went back to a normal life again until one day the bug came again, and he went trolling. He needed a new project. He would case out houses, and he finally found one. An appropriate victim. She fit his profile, didn't have a dog or a boyfriend. He didn't even know her name until her story was published in a detective magazine that he subscribed to.
Mm.
This murder had 2 3s in it at 2317 East 13th Street.
Ooh.
3s meant something to him, so he decided it was a sign. He was going to tie her up like the models in his detective magazines. He called this project Lights Out. And although he said that he didn't know her name, it was 21-year-old Catherine Bright. And I'm calling BS on him not knowing the name.
Yeah.
You know, Lights Out, Bright. You know, I mean...
Yeah, that doesn't...
He knew her
add
name.
up. Yeah, he did. Yeah. But he said that in his book? He told that to the...
Yeah, he said that he didn't know her name until he saw it later in a detective magazine.
Wow.
Which, why lie about that? I mean, Lights Out. That's actually kind of clever.
That's very clever.
I mean, I'm not even joking. That her name was Catherine Bright, so Lights Out. You know, that's actually that's statistically clever.
Very, very clever. Project Lights Out.
April 4th, 1974, he broke in and waited for Catherine to come home. Finally, a car pulled into the driveway. To his horror, there was a man with her. It was her 19-year-old brother, Kevin. They came into the house, and Dennis leapt out, pointing a gun at him, and he told him his same story he told the Oteros. He was wanted in California, and all he wanted was their car. He made Kevin tie up Catherine, and then he tied Kevin to a bed. He then took Catherine into another room and tied her to a chair. He turned on a radio all the way up to drown out any sound there might have been. And not going to go there. I was going to make a guess as to what song might have been on the radio, but I'm not not going to do it.
We'll let that to the imagination.
I was going to say, I chose not to say this, but what I was going to say was it Staying Alive?
Oh, God. The Bee Gees were big back then, so they were still big.
That's horrible. It just popped in my head. I don't write this shit. I don't write the fucked up shit that comes out in here. I mean, you got my notes. Is that anywhere in my notes?
Nope.
So, after he had Catherine subdued, he then went back to kill Kevin, but Kevin had gotten loose and he fought Dennis. And Dennis had 2 guns with him, and he promptly just shot Kevin in the head and he fell. Dennis figured he was dead. And he went back to Catherine. He started to strangle her, but she had gotten loose and started fighting him as well. Dennis said that she fought him like a hellcat. But Dennis was overpowering Catherine, but he heard the noise again in the other room. Kevin was still alive. So he went to go strangle Kevin again, but Kevin attacked. Like I said, Dennis had 2 guns with him, and Kevin managed to get one of them, and Dennis, from Dennis, and he fired at it, but the gun jammed. Dennis said that he stuck his finger in the barrel, causing it to jam. And once again, I'm calling bullshit on that.
I call bullshit on that. There is no such thing as a weak bullet.
No. He's just trying to make himself seem like a badass because he's a 5 foot 730 pound dweeb.
Yeah.
So he shot Kevin in the face again, and this time the bullet hit Kevin in the mouth and shattered 2 of his teeth and knocked him out. There was lots of blood, and once again, Dennis thought Kevin was dead. My sippy cup is almost empty already.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'll wait till we're done with part 1.
Yeah.
Dennis went back to Catherine at this point, who was hysteric, and her gag had slipped and she was screaming loudly. She asked what was going on, and Dennis said that he had shot her brother. And she was fighting him, and then finally frustrated, Dennis pulled out his knife and stabbed her repeatedly. Catherine didn't die immediately, but Kevin was still alive. So I guess, you know what? Maybe that wasn't such a dark, morbid thing as, staying alive, because Kevin did.
There you go.
See? Maybe I'm not as sick as demented as you might have thought.
The weirder things happen.
Because Kevin did stay alive. So he got up and bolted out of the house to get help. And Dennis also bolted, but he grabbed his knife and guns along with Catherine's car keys and her driver's license as trophies. And then he just walked calmly right down the street like he belonged there. He wasn't bringing any attention to himself, so nobody noticed him. A lot of his early crimes, a lot of his earlier murders, he did broad daylight.
Really?
Mm-hmm. The Oteros, Catherine Bright, the next one. Yes.
Yeah, I guess he was afraid of the dark. Didn't like the light.
Nah, he starts becoming a night stalker as well. But Dennis brought these things to his parents' house and he stored them in the garage. He cleaned up while there. He burned his shoes and pants and shirts which had blood on them. He took the things in the hidey hole and he stored them in his parents' garage in a locked case. Once again, this was big news, and Kevin survived. And although Catherine had bled out and died at the hospital, Kevin did give police a description of Dennis, but Dennis was so plain and ordinary looking, it could have been anyone. And plus, I've seen the sketch. It kind of looks like Cartman from South Park.
I know.
He walks into somebody's house. You will respect my authority.
I'm going to my hidey hole.
Oh, God. So, determined that these 2 home invasions, the Catherine Bright and the Oteros, were not connected due to the differences in the MO. So Dennis wrote up a very detailed write-up in his journal about what happened. He wasn't happy about how badly his first 2 murders had gone. Now, at this point, Dennis had lost his job at the Coleman plant. He did the string of burglaries, but he didn't kill anyone. And some of these people knew that he was there, and some didn't. He was just practicing, though.
Hmm.
One person he did intend to kill. It was Operation Coed. He broke in and he saw lots of men's belongings, so he abandoned the project. Oh, he's got a guy there. He might be able to beat me. But he had the itch again. He was going to need to kill again, and soon.
Ooh.
But before he would kill again, 3 men would try to steal Dennis's thunder. They were suspects in the sexual assault of a girl behind the mall, and they had a history of sexual crimes, and they claimed that they knew something about the Otero murders. They didn't confess, and Dennis was going to make sure that they didn't.
Ooh.
He called Don Granger, a Wichita Eagle columnist, and he disguised his voice, and he said that hey, you need to go to the library. No, he's not going to sound like that by disguising his voice. He probably sounds like this. So when he disguises his voice, he probably sounds like he probably just held his nose.
Go to the library, and you'll find a note in a book called Applied Engineering Mechanics. The book will detail the Otero murders, and the men that they had as suspects were not responsible for their murders.
Yeah. Note to self: never
Don't do
hold your
that.
nose. Never hold your nose when you have a runny nose.
Oh, yeah.
How BTK of me. So Granger went to the library, retrieved the note, and Paul's going to read it here verbatim. BTK was a lot of things, but one thing he wasn't was a wordsmith. So take it away, Paul. Good luck.
Oh, man. Not a wordsmith. Let's see. Quote, I write this letter to you for the sake of the taxpayer as well as your time. Those 3 dudes you have in custody are just talking to the publicity for the Otero murders. They know nothing at all. I did it myself and with no one's help. There has been no talk either. Let's put this straight. I'm sorry this happens to society. They are the ones who suffer the most. It's hard to control myself. You probably call me psychotic with sexual perversion, hung up with when this monster enters my brain, I will never know. But it here to say, yeah, he's definitely not a wordsmith. But it here to say,
Here to stay.
Shakespeare. Here to. How does one cure himself? If you ask for help, that you have killed 4 people, and they laugh or hit the panic button and call the cops, I can't stop it so the monster goes on and hurt me as well as society. Society can be thankful that there are ways for people like me to relieve myself at time by day of some victims being tortured and being mine. What? Man, I'm really trying to concentrate here.
I know. The more you concentrate, the harder it gets.
Yeah. It's like, what? A big complicated game, my friend, of the monster play. Huh? Yeah. What did I say?
You
What
said
did he say?
You said it. You said it correctly. He said complicated.
Ah,
No
there
L.
you go. A big complicated game, my friend, of the monster play, putting victims number down. What? Follow them, checking up on them, waiting in the dark, waiting. The pressure is great, and sometimes he run the game to his liking. Maybe you can stop him. I can't. He has already chosen his next victim or victim.
Already.
Huh? Already?
Already. No
Already.
L. He doesn't like
Already?
L's.
He doesn't? Already.
No L. No L. No L.
He has already chosen his next victim or victims. I don't know who they are yet. The next day, after I read the paper, I will know. But it too late. Good luck hunting. Yours truly. Guiltily. Yes. P.S. He ain't done.
Nope.
Since sex criminals do not change their MO, or by nature cannot do so, I will not change mine. The code words for me will be bind them, torture them, kill them, BTK. You see he at it again. They will be on the next victim. Thank you. That wasn't a Shakespearean play.
Oh my God, this guy. Yeah, can you imagine the police officers reading this and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure they had the forensics guy. They give it to forensics. Is like, okay, where did this guy go to school?
He went to
Well, I
the
wonder if
plain
it
old.
was handwritten or was it typed?
It was typed. It was typed on a typewriter. So that, I mean, yeah, that can explain some of it. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, but still, they make whiteout.
Exactly.
I'm sure. I'm sure Michael Nesmith's mom had made her invention by 1974.
Mhm.
I wonder how many of our listeners will get that. Hey. However, he listed a bunch of things only the killer would know, and this is also when he began tooling with the police, and police decided not to publish the letter, and that pissed him off. And this oh there could have there was more because he like he like describes how the Oteros were placed in the house and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's in another letter that you'll have to read.
Huh.
Or it just occurred to me that it's not there. Maybe it wasn't in the first. Maybe it wasn't in the first letter. I don't know. But so police decided not to publish the letter, and that pissed him off.
Oh, I'm sure.
They did, however, post a want ad to BTK in the paper saying help is available along with a phone number. They were likely monitoring that number, but nobody ever called it. Be funny if somebody did.
Yeah. Like copycat.
Or BTK, and if they had run this like say 5 years later, he would have called it. He would have called it from a payphone. He would have called it from a payphone. But the murders made people invest in home security systems. Late in 1974, Dennis got the job working for ADT. He also seeing the letters BTK in the newspaper. He also started becoming more active in the church. One of these things is not like the other.
No.
He hadn't gone public with Catherine Bright's murder yet because he wasn't sure if he wanted them to be connected yet. But the Oteros were his crown jewel, so he was okay with that for now. So he was embarrassed about the Brights because Kevin had escaped.
Yeah.
So he moved his trophies along with his news clippings, etc., into an abandoned barn that he played in as a kid. He also began referring to himself as a Minotaur, which was a serial killer from one of his detective magazines, and he loved those detective magazines. In 1975, Dennis's wife Paula gave him the good news that he was going to be a daddy.
Oh boy.
Hope you choke on that cigar, you sick fuck.
Right?
His son Brian would be born later that year, and it was a rainbow baby because Dennis had a very low sperm count. A little bit of TMI there, Dennis. I mean, especially because of some of the pictures that we've seen. There's one picture of him in bondage where you think he's wearing like a bikini bottom, but if you look closely, it's not. It's the what makes it look like a bikini bottom is his gut hanging over, and he's got his junk tucked back, between his legs, back behind him.
Jeez.
And I don't reckon I'm not going to be posting that picture.
Yeah.
If you want to see it, go ahead. But some things once seen cannot be unseen.
Got that right.
Kind of like but people are going to go look for it. Kind of like if I said, don't Google 2 girls 1 cup.
Yeah. You cannot unsee that once you see it.
No. And I was eating chocolate ice cream when I looked it up. I
You
was.
were?
I was. I did not
Soft-
eat. I
soft
did not
ice
eat.
cream.
I did not eat chocolate. I've probably had chocolate ice cream maybe twice since then. That was back in what I want to say 2006 when that thing went viral.
Yeah.
I was eating chocolate ice cream when it happened.
Oh. I'm sorry.
If you know, you know. If you don't know, keep it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, from 1975 to 1977, New York City had a serial killer problem. Son of Sam, David Berkowitz, was racking up a body count. But Dennis had been laying low for a while. David Berkowitz was wreaking havoc in New York City, and it was making nationwide news. BTK had threatened to kill again, but at this, he hadn't though. But now he was ready. He was also irritated that Berkowitz was getting all this nationwide press, and his handiwork was pretty much just regional. Well, that's because he's in New York City and you're in plain old Kansas.
Mm-hmm. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
A lot more people.
Not to mention, he's doing it out in the fucking open, just walking up to somebody and bang, and walking away.
Yep.
I mean,
you got a lot of buildings to hide behind and a lot of places to go and hide in New York.
It takes
Kansas,
a lot.
What, a cow?
Yeah. but the thing is, I mean, it also takes a lot more guts to do what Berkowitz did than it did to do what BTK did. Because there's buildings all over the place, like you said. Anybody could have been looking out a window at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, David Berkowitz had fucking steel balls.
Yeah.
But the time had come for the nation to be aware of BTK. He didn't want to be just a regional headache. He wanted to be a national headache, like Kanye West. March of 1997, almost 3 years after Catherine Bright's murder, he did go out trolling, which is what he called stalking. He made multiple attempts, but they were thwarted. He was looking for a house with 2 women and there because he wanted to kill 2 women at the same time. And later on, he tries to do that again, but it's even more sick. And we'll get to that. That will be in part 3. He found such a place, and after studying them for days, he was ready. He went there, ready to go, and take a guess.
No.
The women weren't home.
So much studying.
Yeah. But he had a plan B. This one wasn't home either. BTK was a lot of things, but Lucky wasn't one of them. He was very frustrated. Why were these women depriving him of his big G? Don't they know who he is? He found another one at home, but then realized she had a large dog.
Oh. Yep.
still another one. In August 1976, he noticed a woman had a Coleman trailer for sale. He started casing this one, pretending that he was interested in buying the trailer. But on August 11th, the day that he decided that it was time to proceed with Project Trailer, a sniper had started shooting from the top of a hotel downtown. So he decided that this wasn't the best time.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Someone stole his thunder.
Yep. Michael Souls was a 19-year-old who went to the top of a Holiday Inn in Wichita and began shooting. He killed 3 people and injured several more. And he had no idea that he literally saved a life that day. And Souls was the lead story for a while, and that even made national news, which irritated Dennis even more. This little punk had ruined his kill and got the headlines.
See how things are so connected.
Yeah,
I mean, there's always a connection to something.
he's
Stuff
just
we will
walking.
never see.
He's just walking down the street sulking. BTK Dennis is pissed off about about the little punk. Yeah, he's still walking around the neighborhood. He's at this point he's just looking for anything because not one of his plans that he's actually tried to put into motion has worked out. I mean, he could have gone back to Operation Coleman some other day, but I don't know why he didn't. But whatever. I mean, that's just. But this BTK is not smart. Because of his issues with the threes and all that stuff, maybe he was a little bit superstitious. Like, oh, I tried. If I try and fail, I better not try again because maybe that's a sign from the universe or some shit like that.
Some superstitions and stuff with the threes, it's kind of like the Tesla syndrome. Nikola Tesla had a superstition with 3s, 6, 9, and all kinds of crazy stuff. But he was a genius. That's
Right.
the difference.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you think there's something to that where, like, okay, he failed. I mean, because there's always that saying. It's like if once you don't succeed, try again. Well, Dennis Rader apparently didn't believe that. I mean, do you think that there might be something there? You think there might be something to that?
Unless there was something in his upbringing, either through his family or through the religion and family nurturing and stuff, that may be something stuck in his subconscious that could have gave him that superstition.
Well, he never had a blow to the head. He never really got in trouble, as a child. I mean, the little thieveries, the burglaries and stuff like that he did, as a teenager and stuff. He never got caught. I mean, it's just, in the nature versus nurture, debate. This is freaking nature. I mean, nothing happened to make him this way. He was born. He was born this way.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe, since he had a low sperm count, maybe his dad did too. So only a half a sperm fertilized the egg. Could be.
Could be.
I don't know. In part, no, I'm not going to do that. I was going to say maybe in part 3 we'll talk about how looking to how Kevin turned out, but I'm not going to bring the kids into this. I mean, the only reason I brought up Carrie's book is because I'm helping her, buy the book. Let's read it.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna look into Brian's past because it's. Leave the kids alone. I mean, Carrie put herself in the spotlight by writing the book and by doing interviews and stuff like that. Brian has not.
Yeah.
So we're going to leave it that way.
Leave those kids alone.
March 17th, 1977, he's walking through the neighborhood. He's looking for anything. And he needed to kill. He needed to kill.
I need to kill. Pardon me. Would you let me kill you, please? I have. I like that. I like that necklace you're wearing. It would look really good in my hidey hole.
Well, You don't have to kill me. I'll just give it to you. No, I have to kill you. Yeah, I have to kill you.
Yeah.
Get naked.
Yeah. Have the panties too.
I need your panties too. There was one victim, or attempted victim, that he was stalking. He was going to kill her because she was a loose woman.
Mm.
Yeah, there was, during that dry spell, I mean, there was a lot of things. A lot of it just he was. I think what it was really, I think he was losing his nerve. Something happened and he was losing his nerve.
Yeah.
That's what I think's happening. He's like, and he would never admit this. He'll never admit this, but this is my speculation. I really do think that he was losing his nerve, because why else? Why else would he do it? I mean, it's just like, okay, like we were talking about with the with Project Coleman.
Yeah.
He could have just gone after the police, died down after the sniper attack. He could have just gone back to that one.
Yeah.
Any one of them, he could have just gone back to. The one that had a dog, you bring a steak with poison. I mean, I'm not suggesting. I'm just saying, it's like, like I was saying before, the term "where there's a will, there's a way" obviously isn't part of Dennis's mindset.
Mm-hmm. Maybe he just lost his patience. Maybe he was just getting impatient and he just getting agitated.
Could be, but
Mm.
anyway, he's walking. He comes across 26-year-old Shirley Vian. Not her, though. Her 5-year-old son, Stephen. She was a single mother of 3, and she was homesick with the flu that day and in bed. All 3 of the kids were home from school that day. They may have had it too, or maybe she just didn't feel like taking them to school or whatever. Well, regardless, all 3 of her kids were home from school that day.
Yeah.
So she had sent Stephen to a nearby store to get some soup for her and the kids. It was a different time, and I'm sure that the store was like probably right around the corner or something,
Yeah.
But
Woolworth or something.
yeah, but it was a different time. So Stephen had the soup, and he was walking back, and this man walks up to him. This man is wearing a suit, and he's carrying a briefcase. Shows him a picture. It's a picture of Dennis's own wife and son.
Hmm.
And he asked Stephen if he knows where these people live. Stephen said no. Dennis told Stephen that he was a private investigator working a case, and Stephen just said, "No, I don't know these people," and he walked away. So, of course, he didn't know them. But
Yeah.
Dennis walk up to his own house and go inside. This was the one, his next hit. He just decided this randomly.
Whoa.
He hadn't even cased this house one single time.
Huh.
He waits a couple of minutes, then he walks up and he knocks on the door. Stephen's brother answers and asks to talk to his mother. He still went with the private investigator story, and he could pass as one with with how he was dressed. He was wearing a business casual attire and carrying a briefcase. But the briefcase was his kill kit.
Mm.
And as soon as Shirley entered the room, Dennis pulled a gun, and Shirley's confused and tries to cooperate with him. And this time he changes up his story a little bit. He says he has a problem with sexual fantasies, and she was going to help him out with it, whether she liked it or not. And there was no getting out of it. For starters, he was going to tie her up. He tells her, what was going to happen won't be pleasant, but she would survive if she cooperates. Once again, never let anybody tie you up.
Mm-mm. I call bullshit on letting her survive.
Yeah. None of these people were going to survive. But Dennis even talked to her a while, pulling off the whole nice, depraved, savage guy act. Shirley was not amused. She, in fact, she threw up. Later, Dennis, she was upset. There's that word again. Upset.
Wow.
No, you're upset if I throw up on my couch. I'm upset. If I, if you're going to kill me, if you're in my house, I'm going to be more than upset. It's like you keep using that word, Dennis. I don't think you know what that word means.
I don't think he does. I don't think he realized she had the flu.
Yeah, I hope he caught the flu from her.
Yeah.
I hope he got a really bad case of it.
Yep.
But later, Dennis would actually call himself a compassionate killer. A compassionate killer?
That's an
oxymoron.
Yeah. Very.
It's like damn it! I was looking for an analogy, but you got an analogy for that?
I was thinking of one, but I've been just concentrating on the compassionate killer. I mean, it's
Yeah.
what? There's no like it just does not make sense. And that's from his mouth.
He called himself.
Jeez.
That's in the book. He called himself a compassionate killer.
Yeah.
What a douche.
Mhm.
The compassionate killer. That's like a cluttered clean freak. There we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Like a hoarder trying to dust.
Yeah. An organized hoarder. There we go.
Yeah.
So Dennis tells her to round up the kids and put them in the bathroom, and she does. And Dennis, being the nice guy that he is, he puts some toys and books and blankets in the bathroom. Here, play with these kids or take a nap while I kill your mother.
Oh.
They then lock the door. They drag something in front of it to keep the door from being opened. Dennis then takes Shirley into the bedroom to assault her. And the kids are screaming, beating on the door, and Dennis is getting irritated. He yells them to shut the hell up or he'd shoot them in the head in the nicest way possible, I'm sure.
Wow. Yeah, you try to be compassionate.
Here, I'll hold my finger in front of the barrel so that the bullet will slow down a little bit, so it won't hurt as much. I'm sure at this point he wondered if Son of Sam had this many problems in his hits. And the answer to this is obviously no. He just shot him and took off. But BTK probably thought that he was in a higher category than Son of Sam or any other serial killer that simply used guns, although it was Factor X that drove all of them. So he taped her hands behind her back, and he tied her to a bedpost, and then he put a plastic garbage bag over her head and strangled her with a rope. While this was going on, the phone was ringing, and this was interrupting the fantasy that he was, oh, damn it.
Gee.
Yeah. He cleaned up and got out of there, taking a pair of Shirley's underwear as a trophy, leaving the kids in the bathroom screaming. He decided that the Minotaur liked panties as well. So he would later say that the phone call saved the kids' lives. He was planning on killing them and even hanging Shirley's daughter like he had done to Josie Otero.
Whoa.
The kids actually broke out of the bathroom window. These are some badass kids.
Yeah.
And they ran to get help, and police came, and the story did make the news, but no mention of BTK. Nobody came looking for him either. Although police would link Shirley Vian's murder to the Oteros because of the knots that were on the ropes that Dennis had left behind. But this information wasn't released. But Dennis really was good at knots. I mean, he boasted about that. I mean, he was an Eagle Scout.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah.
But the thing was that Dennis just hadn't left any calling cards that serial killers actually leave. And he's only had one glass of water at this point, and he was wearing gloves when he did that. So he didn't leave any fingerprints, and DNA wasn't a thing like, back then. Although he was leaving a lot of DNA, and the police were thinking proactively, and they did take that, the Dennis
Samples.
juice and
Yeah.
and stick it in the freezer.
Hmm.
So I mean, you
Yeah.
it's just going back to what I was talking about nature and everything. The whole thing about just strangling somebody, that's very personal because you're looking into your victim's eyes as they die, unless you're doing it from behind like Larry Hall did.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just yeah, I would say that the scariest serial killers are the ones that break in and strangle. Those are the scariest ones because there really is something going on in their heads. They
Mhm.
just can't help themselves, and they just don't want. Yeah, they don't care. It's just like all about gratification for them. Like even Jeffrey Dahmer, he didn't even like the killing process. He was a product killer, and he just liked to, he just liked the having the dead body. He actually didn't like killing.
Mm.
Dennis liked killing.
Yeah, that's a special. I wouldn't say special. That's a very unique kind of evil. And when I say evil, that's evil, meaning that getting that gratification and looking into the eyes, into the soul of
Hmm.
someone as you're taking their life.
Yeah, I mean that's just I think you do that once in these. The first time that somebody does that, every ounce of humanity is gone at that
Hmm.
point. If do that, you might say if somebody shoots somebody in the head, that could have just been like a one-off fluke or something like that.
Hmm.
It's still murder,
Yeah.
but there still might be some, a person that does something like that, like in the heat of passion or whatever, just gets mad at somebody, pulls a gun, bang.
Yeah.
Dude's gonna feel bad about it for the rest of his life. Whether he's you know s- sentenced to life in prison, or if he somehow gets away with it, it's still gonna eat away at him for the rest of his life.
Yeah, and it's different too for those even though he served in the military, it's different for somebody too that, okay, you're at war, in times of war, which I don't think he's actually saw any action anyway. He wasn't in
No,
combat.
no,
So he didn't witness anything like that when he was in the military. He didn't have to kill anybody. He wasn't a sniper. He wasn't in any
no. He
hand-to-hand combat. So
he was a mechanic in the Air Force.
yeah. So
So he's going to be even if his division or whatever did get deployed to Vietnam, which I think now Vietnam was still going on when he
yeah.
was there, but still, even if he did get deployed, he's not going to be anywhere near the combat.
Right.
He's going to be like at the well, not the aircraft carrier because that's Navy,
Or he'll
but
be on yeah, he'll either be on base or stateside. I mean, he could have been stateside and just, just doing mechanic work on
well, he was in
any equipment.
Okinawa, but
Oh, yeah, yeah,
so he was probably servicing um, Air, Air Force aircraft that was involved with combat in Vietnam, because
yeah,
that's Okinawa's. Yeah, that at that point, um, Japan was an ally.
yeah. Mm,
So I don't know, just speculation.
yeah, yeah. Stuff to think about.
Now BTK was a lot of things, but a poet was not one of them. Although he thought that he was. And he wrote a poem about Shirley on an index card, and he put it in the hidey hole along
Idaho.
along with all of his other evidence. I mean, trophies. And if you want to hear Paul read said poem, you're going to have to tune into part 3 when we pick back up.
Yeah.
I'm leaving you on a cliffhanger. Will Paul fumble through that one the way he did with the letter, or will he have it?
I might have it. I don't know.
Well, he's got a week to get it down.
it.
He's got a week to get it down.
Yeah.
So anyway, damn.
Practice my parts, man. Practice my parts.
You know, I mean, already this part 1 is already better than part 1 and 2 of when we had done
The
it before.
original.
Yeah, already part 1 is better than.
We'll call it the original.
Nah,
we'll
I
call
like
this
the reboot. That was a good
The
call.
reboot.
Yeah,
We'll call the other's the original, and this is the reboot.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the other, if you look at my feed, I call, I had them called something else initially, but
Yeah.
now it's just the BTK debacle part 1, BTK debacle part 2. And if you think about it, those 2 episodes went just as smoothly as BTK's a couple of his murders. How fitting. Oh man. So thanks for listening. We appreciate the hell out of it. Be sure to tune in next week for. Did I say part 3? I meant part 2.
Part 2. Yeah,
Part
part 2.
2.
So,
Yeah.
stay tuned for part 2.
Okay, so not everything's perfect in this episode. Sue me.
Yeah.
So
Not everything is scripted.
right. Yeah, and definitely follow us on our socials, like, subscribe, review, everything. You can comment on Apple, you can also comment on YouTube, interact with us. And actually, I looked at the YouTube page last night and noticed that somebody else in the cult that I was raised in had found the episode on YouTube for the first time and commented on it.
Cool.
I made a comment back, so yeah, so that those are always special to me, especially when somebody calls, like messages and everything, because there's not very many people out there that can understand what they went through.
Yeah, that can associate and yeah.
Yep. So, you have anything else there, Paul?
I don't, but yeah, as far as, again, please, if this is your first time watching, please click subscribe, like, share, comment, and follow wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Yeah, and the website is ckcbpodcast.com. And until next week, later.
Later on.